and welcome to Morning Joe. It's Tuesday, March 23rd. The United States is marking its second mass shooting in a week, this time in Boulder, Colorado, where...
Second mass shooting in a week? What in the world is this pasty, she-liberal talking about? There have been like 20 mass shootings this week. Oh. Okay. My bad. She means the second mass shooting this week where the shooter was presumed to be a white man. Sorry. So the second mass shooting this week where the shooter is presumed to be a white man. And the reason I say presumed, we'll get into that later on. First, I need everyone to hit the like button as you come in. Share these videos with your friends. Don't be afraid on Twitter. Facebook, I wouldn't do it. Twitter, share it with your friends. Take the $5 challenge via PayPal or the Cash App. Also Google Pay. And if you're watching this as a premiere, make sure you take the $5 challenge via the Super Chat as well. So, she's not going to mention the quadruple murder where 5 people were shot in Indianapolis last week, or the pop-up party in Houston where 7 people were shot the other day, Saturday, or the pop-up party in Chicago where 15 people were shot and 2 were killed, and many more that I chronicle on this channel and my other channels as well. So make sure you subscribe to all the channels. She's only going to talk about, she only considers the ones where a white man was shooting and the victims weren't black. So if the victims were black, they don't count. Only the one where the victims weren't black and the shooters weren't black. These liberals are, the racism, the low expectations, God, the soft bigotry, low expectation. They didn't look at her. She's just like, she's so woke and she thinks she loves black people and she's down for black people, and she won't mention a mass shooting unless it had nothing to do with a black person. When 75% of the victims of mass shootings in this country are African Americans. So liberals are on here trying to make some correlation between gun control and AR-15s. And we need background checks and we need to ban assault rifles. Here they come with that crap again. You got this guy, the Bishop Talbert Swan. The white man in handcuffs just murdered 10 people at a Boulder, Colorado supermarket. Amantic Bradford was murdered by a cop at a mall in Hoover, Alabama, after he directed shoppers to safety during an active shooting. The officer who murdered him was never charged. America. This is and these tweets are from last night and earlier today, before the real identity of the shooter was revealed. This woman, this white liberal, says a white man shot a cop and was apprehended peacefully and alive. A black man had a tail light out in Minnesota and was shot and killed in front of his child. There are 2 systems of justice in this country. Choosing to ignore that makes you complicit in it. Hashtag vote. This white woman probably would spend, this white woman probably works 50 hours a week overtime so she don't have to live around black people. And she can send her kids to a school where they don't have to go to school with black people. This woman, I hate these liberals, man. I hate these. She talking about Philando Castile, who was not pulled over for a traffic stop. He was pulled over because he was a suspect in an armed robbery. It was not a traffic stop. It was a suspect in an armed robbery. That's why the officers had their guns drawn. Okay? It was not a traffic stop, and the kid wasn't his. It was his girlfriend's. Kamala Harris's niece deletes tweets blaming white man for Boulder shooting after the suspect is identified. That's y'all black woman, y'all first black vice president's niece. And she blacker than Kamala. She looked blacker than Kamala to me. So let's get to what really happened. Fiction. An angry white man killed 10 people at a King Soopers grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. Fact. A Syrian-born man, Ahmad Aliwi Alisa, 21, of Arvada, Colorado, has been identified Tuesday as the alleged Colorado supermarket shooter. Wow. 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 And this one says, I know. That was my point. Yes, white racism and policing needs to go. Do these people even know what they're talking about when they say white racism and policing? What are they talking about? But people need to quit saying every mass shooting is by a white man. This shooter proves that. This shooter proves that point. These white liberals online are so out of, they have no idea what's going on in their own country. The loudest voices, the most talkative, these people will shout you down. You can't, if you don't agree with them, you can't. This guy, even this guy, who thinks he's on the right path, who thinks he might, you know, who seems like he's not in line with the narrative, he's wrong about everything he says. White racism and policing? You mean the fact that 80% of the shootings happen in a certain community? And that's where the cops go. And this one, where this Arab guy shot a bunch of people, white people, is the one that proves that every mass shooter ain't a black guy. Ain't a white guy. This is the one that proves that every mass shooting ain't a white guy. This one. Yikes. And they will not let up. This one says, everyone wants to talk about how the Boulder shooting was an Islamic terrorist attack. Everyone's talking about that now. Really? You guys spent the first, up until an hour ago, talking about the whole day, up until an hour ago, because this happened about 2 o'clock yesterday. You spent the first 23 hours of this talking about how bad white people were. They release his name, and then this white, pasty liberal gets on there and says, everyone wants to talk about how the Boulder shooting was an Islamic terrorist attack. But if we're going there, then we need to acknowledge that the white man who killed 8 in Georgia last week, who was self-described deeply religious, is a Christian terrorist. It goes both ways. They not gonna. White folk. White. This is a whole white issue. You got white liberals hating white people, and you got white conservatives defending white people. And then you got black people trying to find their way in the mix. And they found their way. Wakanda's found a way to make this about them. A white man walked into a grocery store in Boulder, killed 10 people, and was apprehended by the police and walked out of the building completely unharmed. Right down the street, police killed Elijah McClain while he apologized for not doing anything wrong. In 2019, in Colorado, stopped Elijah McClain as he walked home unarmed. Cops choked him to death. Yesterday, a white man in Colorado killed 10 people, including a cop. Cops arrested him alive. Institutional racism is when white terrorists get more care than unarmed black people. Okay, the SWAT team that dealt with this guy and deals with shooters in situations like this are different than beat cops, okay? They're highly trained, and they're really there to get the guy out alive so he can be brought to heel for what he's done, so that charges can be placed on him. They have more skills and more training than the average beat cop. Also, most of the time, these shooters, after they kill a bunch of people, they give themselves up. Which goes to show you, like, you have these white guys that shoot 20, 30 people sometimes and then give themselves up. And then you got a brother who steal a candy bar and ends up dying in that interaction with police. And it's like, that's not, like, you're not helping us by highlighting that happens so much. You kind of, it's not really like, I know they thinking it's a compliment. It's not complimentary that white guys can shoot a bunch of people and then survive, and a black guy can go 10 miles over the speed limit and turn a warning ticket into a death sentence right there in the street because of inability to follow directions and control his impulses. But they killed Elijah McClain for walking home.
Happy birthday! Happy late birthday! It's delicious.
Happy super late birthday.
Nice. Wait, really?
Oh, really?
I was like, no way. This is a luau party. There you go. Wow, this is really nice. This is beautiful. This is awesome.
And look, we have a photo backdrop with grass skirts and coconut bras.
Oh my gosh. Can you see?
So we're all going to take pictures. So we're going to get laid.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's getting laid today.
Everybody.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, look at it.
Oh, he's going to hula. He's going to do the hula.
No, I'm not sure you got the skirt.
Okay, so that was Elijah McClain, man. Nice kid, man. Nice kid. Very nice kid, man. Played the violin. Was into, you know, very nice kid, spiritual kid. Didn't deserve what happened to him.
And we start with breaking news tonight at 10. Newly released body camera video from Aurora Police is giving us new insight into the moments before Elijah McClain's August death.
Now, someone called police to report McClain as a suspicious man wearing a ski mask and waving his hands. The 23-year-old was walking home from a convenience store. His family said he wore the ski mask because he was anemic and was often cold.
Okay, so this is him at the store a few minutes before he passed away. And this is before the pandemic. And trust me, if you were walking around with a mask over your face in 2019, it raised suspicions. And it people got their spidey senses up when they saw anybody walking around with a mask. It wasn't just a black person. It was anybody walking around with a mask in 2019. I don't care if you was anemic. We don't know you anemic. That's your... I don't care if you was anemic. We don't know you're anemic. We don't know nothing about you. You're walking around with a mask. It's 2019. We can't foresee the future that everybody's going to be wearing masks. I got a mask on me just so I can go in places. I can't go anywhere without a mask inside of places. Even in my building. Once I leave my apartment, I have to wear a mask. So, this kid's walking around with a mask. This is the guy that the police approach. Walking down the street. Okay? And I'm not saying that what happened to this brother was right. The thing is jacked up. It was unfortunate. But this is completely different than the shooter yesterday giving himself up. Because people act like if that shooter, Alisa Alawi or whatever his name was, Ahmad Alisa Alawi, if he would have shot at the cops or resisted arrest, that he wouldn't have gotten killed. They make it seem like the cop he shot was he shot during the time when he was pinned down and it became an extraction situation. No, he shot the cop as soon as the cop came in there. Once the SWAT team came and started negotiating with him, he gave himself up. So they're not going to kill him. This brother's walking down the street with a mask on in 2019. And someone called the police. Because that was strange behavior in 2019. He was waving his arms around. People say he was acting kind of crazy. He was an eclectic guy. I don't think he was a bad guy at all. He seemed like a great guy, Elijah McClain. But here's what the guy said. When the dispatcher asked for a description, the guy says, "Let me see. He has a mask on. He looks sketchy. He might be a good person or a bad person." That's what was said. That's what was said. This is not, and this was like the accent of the guy seemed like he was from Middle East or something like that. The guy who called the police on him. Someone called the police. The police showed up because they were called. The police hadn't said nothing to this guy. This guy been walking around all the time with a mask on. No police ever messed with him. Even though it's sketchy. Even though it's 2019 and it's like, who is that? What this guy got a mask on for? The first time he was approached about his mask was when this guy called 911 and told the police to come and check on it. Because he was walking down the street with a mask on, waving his hands in the air, and the guy got scared.
10 newly released body camera video from Aurora Police is giving us new insight into the moments before Elijah McClain's August death.
Now, someone called police to report McClain as a suspicious man wearing a ski mask and waving his hands. The 23-year-old was walking home from a convenience store. His family said he wore the ski mask because he was anemic and was often cold.
Police stopped him while he was walking. They say he was resisting arrest, so they put him in a carotid control hold, and he passed out. And then when paramedics arrived on scene, they chose to administer the sedative ketamine, something Aurora Fire says is standard protocol around our region.
Stop.
Stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious. Come on with me. Go. Grab your gun, dude. Stop, dude. Just drive it right behind his ear if he fights, all right?
Now, Aurora police insist they are not the ones who requested the use of ketamine. It was Aurora paramedics. McLean went into cardiac arrest on his way to the hospital. He died 6 days later.
And according to an autopsy, the coroner could not determine how McLean died and wouldn't rule out homicide at the hands of Aurora PD, but added it may have been physical exertion. The attorney representing the McLean family says they were not aware of tonight's press conference and calls this surprise Friday night press conference another example of Aurora doing its best to keep Elijah's family and the community in the dark. Aurora police say the officers were put on leave and they are back on the job. The department is still looking into use of force in this case.
Okay, so this guy says the media had planned to spend the rest of the week talking about the Boulder shooting, but will now have to find something else to talk about since the shooting is a Syrian immigrant named Ahmad al-Aliwi al-Hisa. Yeah. They're not going to talk about this anymore. This thing is over. Okay? This one's done. We're not going to hear about this anymore. Even though 10 white people were killed, and this is a racist white country, white supremacist country, right? You're not going to hear nothing about it anymore. There'll be very few apologies for the slander on the white community. Could you imagine if this was the other way? And make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you take the $5 challenge. Like that. Super chat up. Chat. Ock Nation. Like that super chat up. Could you imagine? Just close your eyes and imagine if this was the other way around. If this guy would have been one of those olive-skinned Middle Easterners, and let's just say he had a low haircut or something covering his hair and you couldn't see the naps, and they just assumed it was a light-skinned brother and put it on black folk. It's black man, another black man shot him at such and such place. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Oh my God. Could you imagine? White guys, white people. That's why you got to understand in this country, white people have it good because you got half of them on one side and half of them on the other side. They're politically very disparate. They can think either way. They can be conservative or liberal. And it's a lot of them that's conservative and a lot of them that are liberal. Not so much with our community. But these people won't lose their Twitter accounts for these racists. These things these people are saying on here are racist. And these are people of color. These are people from the same region as the shooter. They're just spewing all types of anti-white racism online. And these people, if these people woke up tomorrow and their Twitter account was deactivated, they would have a heart attack. If you white and you say something, you thinking, okay, I might get my Twitter account deactivated. These people, they would be shocked if their Twitter account was deactivated tomorrow for hate speech. All these people that said all these evil things about white people. And a white guy didn't even do it. Now, you can say whether he's white as far as like in his own country. Yeah, in his own country, he may be a white man. In his own country, he may be a white man, but in America, he's a person of color. He's a Middle Easterner, an Arab. Father just bought the gun on March 16th. A jiu-jitsu, competitive jiu-jitsu. What made this guy buy a gun on March 16th, go into a Boulder, Colorado supermarket and kill 10 white people? And why is nobody talking about that aspect of it? That 10 white people got killed for no reason at all. And even when we found out his reason, they died for no reason. They didn't do nothing to him. And you see that blood streaming down his right leg? That's from a bullet wound. He got shot. Well, nobody's talking about that anymore. But when they thought he was white, they didn't feel he got shot enough. When they thought he was white, it was nothing happened to him. Now that they found out that he's not Anglo-Saxon, Western European white, now people are admitting that he got shot. He got shot by the cops. The cops shot him and were able to take him into custody after shooting him. And here comes the Christian hate. The hatred against Christians. This guy says it's funny. You say Muslims are terrorists for what Ahmad Alisa did in Colorado. Well, actually, nobody's got the kahunas to say that on Twitter, so I don't know where they're getting this from. A lot of times these liberals make up stuff. They put words in your mouth. There ain't nobody got enough courage to say, call this guy a terrorist on Twitter. They ain't trying to lose their account. 4 days. The worst terrorist attack was the murder of 8 Asian women in Atlanta. Actually, it wasn't 8 Asian women. 2 white people died, were killed, and 6 of the women were Asian. But whatever. Who's keeping count? Obviously not him. 4 days. The worst terrorist attack was the murder of the 8 Asian women in Atlanta by a Christian far right. Should I blame all Christians for what that man did? Terrorism is not a religion, it's an act. Although they found a tweet of his, an older tweet of his, where he, showed some signs of paranoia. So this is July 5th, 2019, when he was 19 years old. Very young man. Yeah, if these racist Islamophobic people would stop hacking my phone and let me have a normal life, I probably could. So he may have done this. He may have disliked white people or the West, as you would call it, being from the Middle East. That's yet to be revealed. We're going to wait for that to come out. Definitely not a white man. You can just tell, just not a Western European. You can just tell. Very few apologies will be given, though. There'll be very few apologies. Now, it's been a few hours, just a few hours since the guy who killed 10 people yesterday at a Colorado supermarket, which was the biggest story for the last 24 hours. Boulder was trending. The number 1 for almost 24 hours. AR-15 was like trending number 2, number 3. Gun control was trending. All these things were trending surrounding this shooting. They've just released the name of the guy who did it. As last week, when they just released the name of the guy who did that shooting in Atlanta, his name trended for hours upon hours. Let's see. This is only 2 hours after the name of the guy who did it was released. Let's see if he's trending. CMBYN is number 1. Really? National Puppy Day is number 2. Now you've seen all the tweets. Listen. They're talking about him. It's like 1,000 tweets every second with this guy's name in it. Why is Twitter not put his name as the number 1 trending topic? I just went through his name, the tweets with his name in it, and it's like a tweet every half a second. Where's this guy's name on the trending list? Wow. Draymond Green is trending at number 6 because he said he was the best defender in NBA history. Wow. Here he is, number 9. A few hours after his identity was revealed. Wow, he's that number 9. Okay. Wow. Wow. Get in the comment section, man. Like, subscribe, donate. Peace. I'm out.